Entonces es la primera vez que están acá en Colombia, por eso queríamos invitar, y Doug ahí mismo le mandamos la invitación, aceptó. Entonces, por favor, un súper aplauso para Doug. Acuérdense, no se puede tomar fotos, nada de fotos, nada de fotos. Y lo otro es, si quieren hacerle preguntas a Doug, hashtag SIG11 y en Twitter, en Facebook, y nosotros vamos a coger esas para hacer las preguntas a Doug, así que...
1, 2, 1, 2, ok, it's working. Hola, me llamo Douglas, yo soy francés y trabajo en Louvre para hacer layout. Me encantó estar aquí y gracias por invitarme. Me voy a cambiar para inglés porque mi español no es bastante bien. So we'll see, because I'm French, speaking in English to a Colombian audience. I'll try my best to make it work for you guys. Okay, so a bit of background on me. Basically, I did a school called col3.0 in France. There's two schools, south of France, north of France, and it's an animation school. There is a 4 years course. The two first years are for art in general, and the 2 last years are learning 3D. And the cool thing is that the last year you're supposed to graduate doing a short film. So, I mean, I graduated with that short film called Steve Jobs that maybe you might have seen, but it's a little old now. But I want to say that it's actually a very, short films are a very good way to actually promote yourself and get jobs. I mean, that's how ultimately I got my position as a director at the Mill right after school. So for those who don't know the Mill, it's a commercial company in London. They do a lot of commercials, a lot of VFX, and so I was able to work there as an animator, and I've been directing some commercials. Some of them were like this comfort commercial for a washing machine product. And I was also able to make another short film which they produced, which was very nice, called Galactic Mail. That was also done in 2008. So that was also a very good thing for me in terms of self-promotion and being able to show my work and my personality and stuff. And ultimately, Blur called me, and I couldn't resist the temptation of going to work for Blur because it was a dream for me. I already tried to go there when I was younger. It didn't work out because I was just out of school. So I dropped a CD in the office. Maybe they didn't watch it, I don't know. But I just left, and then they contacted me 4 years later to come do layout there, and I was like, okay, I'm coming. So, I mean, in case you don't know the company, I'm going to cover it a little bit. So, basically, Blur is in Los Angeles. They've been existing for around 15, 16 years, I think. They do game cinematics mainly, full CG game cinematics, and it's really one of the few places in the world where you can do animation for more teenager and adults with very there's a lot of violence and stuff. So I mean, I was quite excited about this personally. Anyways, yeah, I mean, they're also famous because it's a Max, 3ds Max studio, which is also getting pretty rare these days. There's less and less studio working in Max, except in video game, of course. So anyways, in case you don't know their work, I prepared a little, I have the latest short here with me, so we can look at it together and you can see what it's about. a bit of numbers. I mean, just to have an idea, like these projects, people see them, but they don't really know what it means in terms of like actual work. So for 3 to 6 minutes worth of content, usually we spend between 3 and 6 months in production. And it's usually about 30 to 60 people, and those are like average, they can change, but that's more like to give you a rough idea of what the work, the timings, and the people who are working on these cinematics are representing. So think about it, like it's quite I think it's quite an unconventional system, because I've been either working in like smaller teams, smaller studios, and it's like 5 to 10 people working on a project, and also working on bigger studios where it's only 200 people working on a project. So Blur is like this in between. That it's actually quite a sweet spot, according to me, where yeah, it's nice because you still have a lot of responsibility, and you can do a lot of different things. Because it's still like a small team in a way, but so you still have a lot of like entitlement when you create content, but at the same time, because it's pretty big, you still also are able to tackle problems that a smaller studio cannot afford, or going pretty ambitious in certain things. So that's kind of like explaining about how this studio is set up. Okay, I have a sad news. Today, I'm not going to be really talking about how we get there, but more how we get there. Because I'm a layout artist and I do layouts, and that's what I'm going to focus on in this talk. So I see some people leaving already, but please stay, because like I'm promise you it can be interesting to talk about this stuff too. And yeah, so anyways. Okay, so what is layout? So, I mean, when people ask me what I'm doing for a living, I tend to like have learned to not say layout anymore, because you see, when I say layout, they either they don't know what it is, and they're like, oh, I don't know what this guy is doing, or sometimes they think you're just a crappy animator, which is not very good either. So I just say I work in animation, VFX, etc., etc. But I don't think this is what really layout is, and it's not also what layout is about. So I'm going to talk about layout today, explaining what it is, how it's important, why it's necessary, and particularly, I'm going to talk about layout at Blur, because like it might be different from in between different companies, but I guess at Blur it's a specific thing, so that's what I'm going to focus on. So first, I want to clarify layout versus previews. Like there's a lot of times where people say previews, other people say layout. It's just use interchangeably those words to express the same thing or two different things. I don't know, but so my vision of this is that previews is about mocking up something before we actually do it. So when you create a preview, you're going to want to take, you're going to try to visualize what the end result will be without having a whole team of people working on it for nothing, because then it doesn't work, right? So that's what previews is about, and it doesn't worry really about what's next in production. Like it's about knowing what shot there is, what pacing, you know, what story is being told and stuff like that. Layout to me is more about making things work in space. So to me, it's actually in production already. It's basically the person that's going to make sure that, you know, the modeler is going to model an environment that is big enough for the animator to animate a run that's going to be long enough. So it's about figuring out height of things, unit, distance between things, make sure the composition with the camera works with the assets that are going to be used in production. So it's a little different, but basically at Blur, layout is both previews and layout. Not only we have a responsibility to create like a preview for the show, and we're going to be able to see what it's going to be and make creative decisions, but also we need to make sure all these assets, all these cameras can be transferred, because we work in a way that is transferable to animation, scene assembly, like all the other departments that are working. So you know, we transfer data to them. Okay. So in order to understand more what it is, I made a little video that shows some layout that also transitions onto final images, so you can see how that connects. And yeah, so let's watch them.
Looks like we missed one hell of a party.
What are you doing? Taking a specimen while it's still fresh. the deceased, Thomas Wayne. In the event of my death, I hereby declare that all my worldly belongings pass to my son, Bruce. Do not waste it all on fast cars, outrageous clothes, and a destructive lifestyle. With this wealth, you have the opportunity to get back into the city that has given us so much, to change the lives of millions of people. Finally, my son, I ask that you never abandon this city to its fate.
Are safe now.
Okay, so layout numbers. This is the numbers. So for 3 or 6 minutes of content, there's an S lighting there. 30 to 60 days of production, usually. Usually spread among 1 or 2 people. So that's the time it kind of takes to make a layout cinematics in average. So the question is like, why is this needed? Why do you need a guy like me doing a crappy version of the cinematics and spend day and night to do it? So there is a couple of reasons. The first reason that the artists in production, they have other worries than pacing and story. Like you cannot have like someone animating, rendering, and be worrying about like, oh, is this like telling the right story? Is this working with the next shot? Is it working with the previous shot? Like, you know, this stuff cannot, like, it's going to slow them down a lot, so they have to figure out, as they are already working on things that are not that easy to figure out, animation, lighting, rendering, and you know, they have very slow scenes too, like especially render guys, like they can't scrub like in the viewport, so for them addressing this kind of like things is very hard to, they work like in a submarine in a way, right, in a tank, where we have a little bit of bicycle. Editorial changes can have a huge consequence on budget, so think of this like if you were to actually animate and render a shot and then suddenly it gets cut. You didn't lose any money, but you lost money because you did a shot that's not going to end up being there, so you did it for nothing. If you suddenly have more shots that you need to create that you didn't plan for because something doesn't really work, now suddenly you have to make them and it's very expensive, it changes your budget that was set to a specific figure at the beginning. So, you know, this is a way to so this is an example, for example, of a scene I laid out that got completely removed, so imagine if this was done like in animation or rendering, like, and we have to remove this. This is a huge amount of money that is lost. And although I wish I would have seen Ari becoming like super saiyan, that would have been cool, but never mind. So it is the best tool for other departments to create an accurate bit. So once you have this layout done, right, you can show it to any supervisor, like an animation supervisor, or effects supervisor, or rendering supervisor, and they can tell you exactly how much it's going to cost. They can see, oh, there's those 3 characters on that shot, when you animate it, it's going to cost that much. Oh, there is that fire in the background, it's going to take that many days. We can quote it, so we can be more efficient about how we schedule and quote the project, so we're sure that it's going to stay in the boundaries of the budget. And also it allows us to flag that there's actually a problem, like suddenly we're like, oh, we can't do this, and so we have to remove the shot, but at that stage it doesn't really matter, because it's only me who worked on it, and it's fine, you know, you can trash my work, I won't say anything. So we have 2 starting points when we start layouts, basically. People come with either a script or a storyboard. So there's always a script, and usually it's written by the client, and it's always being rewritten a little bit by the director. And other times there is a storyboard, not all the time, and I'm also going to explain why a bit later. So why? Actually, 2 starting points, not a bit later, it's right now. That's because we have 2 really different specific styles of projects. We have stylized projects, and we have filmic projects, which is a terminology we came up with, but doesn't really mean anything. But stylized projects are relatively something where it's not photoreal, so you know, like Elixir is a good example, like the characters are not photoreal, so, and the animation is not also realistic like motion capture, so it has style to it. Now, I'm not saying like a film cannot have a style, but when I say filmic, I mean that it's more like a live action movie. It's CG, but the way it's been done is more like a movie. And the way it flows is more like a movie language. So for these 2 different projects, we have 2 kind of different workflows because it's just the nature of them. So for stylized projects, you have to do some blocking when you're laying out, because otherwise there is nothing to film. Like if someone tells me, oh, like this guy needs to run to the tree and then start like, you know, climbing it, I need to block some animation there to be able to have something to shoot with my camera. So there will be blocking. And that's when the storyboard helps, because if there is a storyboard, usually it's been approved by the director, so I know this is going to be in the cinematic, so I'm going to block it and it's going to be there, and maybe there will be tweaks, but it won't be like removed or changed completely. Now if there was no storyboard, which happened in the past, especially on League of Legends actually, there was not always storyboards for all the sequences, so I would have to block something, and then that's when we'd figure out, oh, actually, you know what, we're going to do something else. Oh, what if we did this instead? And now you have to just throw away all your work and do it again, so that's when your tears are starting to fall down your face. So yeah, so for films, it's a little different, because it requires a motion capture shoot. It's not going to be keyframe, because honestly, like, what's the point? Like, motion capture looks good for realistic stuff by nature. We just use it.